end on something around Brexit without the exit. So let's have a look at something that the European Union is up to. Now, UK column, Mike, you in particular have talked about disinformation, but this is fascinating, and thank you, the person who alerted us to it. It's Foreign Affairs Council, 21st of January, written statement. Sir Alan Duncan, Minister of State for Foreign and Commonwealth Affairs. My right honourable friend, the Secretary of State for Foreign and Commonwealth Affairs, attended the Foreign Affairs Council on the 21st of January. It was chaired by the High Representative and Vice President of the European Union for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy. That's Federica Mogherini. The meeting was held in Brussels. So let's just remind ourselves, here's Alan Duncan, and he's been in a bit of a sticky position over whether Brexit is good or not. We'll see a bit more of that in a minute. But this is one of his statements. The wish to restore the power to govern ourselves is a perfectly respectable argument, and the rise of UKIP and the undimmable forces within the Conservative Party who want to leave the EU are testament to the enduring irritation many feel. So you might feel that this man has at least got some thoughts for people who want to get out of the EU. Well, has he? But what was he doing? Well, as the government's talking Brexit, he was getting involved with this. Disinformation. The Council discussed the action plan against disinformation that was presented by the High Representative and European Commission on the 5th of December. Ministers expressed strong support for the plan and exchanged views on implementation. It goes on to say the Council highlighted the creation of an EU rapid alert system to share expertise and best practice to promote coordinated action, notably through awareness-raising campaigns. Ministers stressed the need to engage with civil society, business and academia to tackle disinformation, as well as to work with international partners such as NATO and the G7 on this issue. The Council agreed that the EU's operational capacity should be strengthened, including by reinforcing the 3 European External Action Service strategic communication task forces. It's like reading something out of Cold War Soviet literature here, but this led to a very interesting little diagram, because this is this 3 task force organisation. Let me just call it up on the other screen. So we've got the European External Action Service here. And if we highlight a few things, we've got the Deputy Secretary General for Economic and Global Issues. We've got this one, which is Deputy Secretary General for Political Affairs and the political director. It's straight out of the Soviet. Yeah. This is the EU, but it's this little box here which caught my eye. So let's bring that on screen. What have we actually got? Well, here we're into a real focus principally on the Eastern Front. The European calls it the Eastern Border, but we've got a gentleman looking after the header is Deputy Secretary General for CSDP and Crisis Response. We've got a security policy head. We've got intelligence situation, crisis management, civilian planning and conduct. But over on the right-hand side, it's amazing to see that we've actually got a full declaration of European Union military staff. And that includes military planning and conduct, includes concepts and capabilities, intelligence, operations, logistics, communication and information systems. So there is absolutely no doubt that the EU has already installed its military. Of course, Mogherini is the head of this system at the moment. So utter lies that we're simply talking about a European army in the future. The system's already here. Bring ourselves back to Alan Duncan, and of course this was reported in the Telegraph a little while ago that he was for staying in the European Union, but he was for joining the Leave organisation. Nobody was too sure where he was coming from, but at the moment, while the government's talking Brexit, he's been overseas to work alongside the EU as they install what must be the biggest propaganda and civilian control organisation Europe has ever seen, or at least since the Nazis were in power. David, the style of this European documentation, the way it's set up, It is a Soviet.
Yes, and is it just me, or can I just visualize that somewhere down the bottom of that organization chart, there's going to be added on the Chief of the Defence Staff, and then the head of the, below him, the head of the Royal Navy, the Army, and the Air Force, that our Her Majesty's Armed Forces are going to be subservient to everything we just saw there.
Indeed. Now, we're on the stops for time, but I'll just call these up on screen so that people can freeze the screen. This is a leaflet, the Action Plan Against Disinformation, so you can read on one page what the EU has really got planned, and they're going to control everything from the web to the press and media and what's happening amongst social networking and communities. On the right is the document itself, the joint communication to the European Parliament, the European Council, the European Economic and Social Committee, and the Committee of the Regions Action Plan Against Disinformation. This is the sort of thing they're talking about, and here is why I'm focusing on the new European Eastern Front, because they're talking about the importance of the eastern and southern neighbourhood and in the Western Balkans, and they're absolutely going for the Russians in this text. And they go on to talk about an independent media is essential for the functioning of a democratic society, but they then describe how they are going to be in there monitoring and indeed controlling the media. So I encourage people to go and look at this document. This is the conclusion that disinformation is a major challenge for the European Union and its value and freedoms. I know it's very difficult to get hold of. Strong commitment and swift action is going to be necessary, and they're particularly worried about the up and coming European Union elections. But if you read this text, you can see that they're going to take control of everything possible to control what people read and what information circulates on the internet.